Are you ready to get locked out of your favorite hobby? Cause that's exactly what's happening. At some point in your life, you must have hit a wall. A point where you said, it can't get worse than this, right? Right? And then it got worse. But even then, you can probably remember that instead of dropping a fortune on therapy or getting drunk, you had a much cheaper and healthier escape. You had video games. I mean, your parents could be having a divorce in the next room and you would be playing GTA San Andreas and picking up hookers, having an absolute blast. For as long as I can remember, games have been the one thing that have kept me sane through everything. Even now, when the world feels like it's collectively going to shit, I'm extremely thankful that I'm able to boot up something like Crimson Desert and get immersed in a world crafted with the actual passion. But the sad part is that this escape is becoming a luxury that the people who need it the most can no longer afford. As consoles, the champions of making gaming cheaper and accessible have gotten so expensive that a lot of people can't buy them anymore. And even if they can buy them, a lot of people choose not to because what's even the point of having the latest PlayStation or Xbox if the games on them are garbage? But more than that in just a bit. Now the PS5 was a huge investment already when it came out, and what's absolutely crazy is that instead of a price drop, which is usually the case for hardware, the console just keeps getting more and more expensive. I mean, the PS5 launched at $500. Today, 7 years later into its life cycle, the slim version, which should actually be cheaper than the fat model, costs $200 more for some reason. I remember with the PS4, the slim version was cheaper. So naturally when the PS5 came out, I waited for the slim to drop, and I'm sure many of you did too, but then it arrived at the same damn price as the original. In fact, the digital version saw a $50 price increase. Then last year, they raised the prices for all their consoles by $50, blaming the challenging economic environment. And now, following in the footsteps of the Xbox, they've hit us with what might be the steepest price hikes ever, another $100 across the board. And don't even get me started on the PS5 Pro, which was already way too overpriced for what it was offering at $750, cause now it suddenly costs $900. What I don't really understand is why would the PS5 Pro see the largest price increase? Unlike the PS4 Pro, which made up about 15 to 20% of the total sales for the PS4, the Pro version for the PS5 accounts for only about 3%. It wasn't a good deal in the first place, and now it's got even worse. Now, I'm not a business mastermind, but in my opinion, the best move would have been to only raise the price for the base PS5 and leave the Pro untouched, making it look like a much better deal, more value for money for anyone looking to buy a PS5. But then there's another more important question, and I'm sure we're probably wondering this too. Why would someone actually want to buy a PS5, let alone a PS5 Pro in the first place? Other than the Wolverine, which also has been touched by Sweet Baby Ink in some way, all the games they're offering are straight up garbage. I mean, is there anyone on this planet who would look at Marathon and be like, you know what, I need a PS5 Pro to play this game? Same goes for Horizon Forbidden Salad, or Intergalactic The Heretic Prophet, or the next Uncharted, which will most probably be about another angry girl boss instead of Sam and Sully going on a dude bro adventure. Judging from this trajectory, the PS6 will have first-party games that are significantly worse. Now, the reason I brought this up is simple. Consoles don't really offer a low barrier to entry into gaming anymore. The one thing that sells consoles now are the first-party games. That's one of the reasons why the PlayStation 4 crushed it while the Xbox One struggled, and the importance of good exclusives have only grew with the rising cost of hardware. Now, I'm not saying that the sales numbers for the PS5 are bad, but Sony has had a really hard time in getting more people to upgrade. Over their recent earnings call, they flexed a total of 132 million active users, and since the PS5 has sold around 92 million units, it means that around 40 million people are sticking to their PS4s. And why is that? It's simple. There's no real incentive to upgrade to a PS5. According to recent reports, some of the most downloaded games on the PS4 are Red Dead 2, Star Wars Battlefront 2, Batman Arkham Knight, Minecraft, and Grand Theft Auto 5. Even on the PS5, some of the most played games are Grand Theft Auto 5, Minecraft, and of course at the very top spot is Fortnite. Yet still, Epic can't pay their bills, but more on that in just a bit. The point is, people are sticking to older games. Recently, even I was playing Assassin's Creed Brotherhood, Ghost of Tsushima, Red Dead 2, and a little bit of Need for Speed Rivals before Crimson Desert dropped and absolutely spoiled me. And now I'm saving up for the Blood of Dawnwalker, but I absolutely don't want to play any of the PS5 first-party games, not now, not ever. And I'm sure there are a lot of gamers who share the same sentiment. I mean, there's a reason why Sony lost hundreds of millions of dollars on Concord. And that's not the only one. They scrapped The Last of Us multiplayer when it was 80% done, along with a dozen of other projects. They spent over $3 billion on Bungie with little to nothing to show for it. Marathon came out just last month, and if it wasn't for the game journals glazing it like crazy, it might as well have not existed because Crimson Desert is dominating the conversation. In fact, it won the PlayStation Player Choice Awards for March. I hope IGN's okay. Now yes, there's a small dedicated fan base for Marathon, but the game's nowhere near the mainstream mega hit that Sony needed. And we all know that Horizon Live Service game is already dead on arrival, but the leadership at Sony refuses to admit that. So just for the sake of this argument, let's assume that by some miracle that game blows up and becomes the next Fortnite. It's never gonna happen, but let's just assume it does. Realistically speaking, how long can Sony keep it going? Just recently, after increasing the price for V-Bucks, Epic laid off around 8,000 employees, citing a drop in the amount of time people are spending playing Fortnite. And it's not the first time either. Back in 2023, they laid off around 800 employees because of lower profit margins. So if a giant like Fortnite, a game that still has millions upon millions of monthly active users, is starting to decline and Epic is struggling to pay their bills because of that, what hope is there for Sony's clones that no one wants? Now what's even crazier is that just a while back, Sony also decided that they will not be releasing their games on PC, despite the fact that they somehow managed to make around $300 million from PC port alone between the years 2021 and 2023. But I kinda get where they're coming from. They probably think that by doubling down on exclusivity, they'll force you to buy their console.
Not a great plan.
The thing is that if a PS5 Pro now costs $900, it's realistic to assume that the PS6 will cost around $8,000, and a few years after that the PS6 Pro will cost well north of $1,400. Now I'm not a PC guy, but I did some research, asked a friend of mine, and found out that you can get a fairly decent PC at the same price point and it'll probably run your games much better. So now in short, PlayStation is like an amusement park with shitty rides, a lot of people don't want to go in the first place, and Sony just increased the entry fee.
Genius.
Now you can argue that the ongoing wars and a collapsing economy might have forced their hands to raise the prices, and yes, while that is definitely a contributing factor in the rising prices for literally everything, I think the main reason for the sudden price hike now is Grand Theft Auto 6. The thing is that there is a huge appetite for good, high-quality single-player open-world games, and just recently we saw that hunger with Crimson Desert. Reports suggest that around 25% of global sales for that game were on the PS5. And in the UK, the number is almost unbelievable, but 90% of the physical copies sold were the PlayStation version. And I could be wrong, but it's entirely possible that thousands of people went out and bought a PS5 or even a Pro specifically to play that game. Grand Theft Auto 6 is an even bigger game that comes out later this year. What's great news for Sony is that it's a timed console exclusive. The FOMO for it's gonna be crazy, and one thing's for sure, it's gonna sell an ungodly amount of copies, and most probably a ton of PS5s too. There are 40 million people that are still on the PS4, and that's a goldmine. Sony knows that when the time comes, a lot of these people will upgrade to a PS5 or the PS5 Pro just for Grand Theft Auto 6. And since that's something Sony's own first-party games failed to do, I think they want to capitalize on the insane hype for GTA 6, banking on it to be the rising tide that lifts all of their sinking ships as well. They're trying to recoup a significant portion of the billions they've just burned over the last few years, not to mention right now is the perfect time to raise the prices under the guise of global economic pressures, which we all know is just a bullshit excuse because the prices are never coming down even when things get better. They know that you'll be pissed off today, but they also know that by the time you're watching the GTA 6 launch trailer in about 7 months, that anger will have faded. They know that by that time, most of the people will get used to the new price tag and will pay the Concord tax without any problems whatsoever. And while that might work in the short term with the PS5 since it's still somewhat affordable for many people, what's the long-term game plan? I mean, let's be real here, a lot of people will not be able to afford the PS6 or the next Xbox or a PC because many people simply can't drop $1,000 on a hobby no matter how much they love it. And that's where every big company's dream comes in, a subscription service. They'll tell you that the consoles are too expensive to own or even lease now. And then just like the Game Pass, once they've trapped enough players in their convenient ecosystem, they will definitely raise the prices, paywall certain features like high resolutions and frame rates, or worse, start showing ads on the platform. So either you buy the PS6 or get trapped in their subscription service. To me it seems like a win-win situation for them in the long run. At this point, the only viable option for most of us is probably the Steam machine or investing in a decent gaming PC. But most importantly, just like the games, we need some real competition in the console market as well. I mean, just imagine a Korean or a Chinese tech company dropping a console of their own, the Yin Yang GameCube or whatever, for just $400. It's wishful thinking, I know, but they have been absolutely crushing it as of late with huge, awesome, high-quality AAA games at a fraction of the development budget. Like dude, you can clean a chimney or literally fly to outer space in Crimson Desert, and that game had a development budget of around $130 million. Compare that to the $400 million disaster that Concord was. So it's entirely possible that they can build more efficient and affordable consoles too. And I truly hope that they give us more options to choose from, because now we need some real competition more than ever. But I'll leave you at that. Do share your thoughts on these outrageous price hikes in the comments down below, and let me know if you'd buy a console from any Eastern tech companies if they ever drop one. Don't forget to drop a like and subscribe if you found this video valuable. Also destroy the hype button so my video gets more exposure and my small channel blows up. I would really appreciate the support. Thanks for watching. Until next time, take care and save up for a decent gaming PC.